What's going on, Jerome's? It is day 9,572 of the Danielle Vikings standoff. What is going to happen? Will they extend their superstar edge rusher Danielle Hunter? Will they make his contract a market rate, or will they end up trading him? So starting to get some clarity on what's going to happen with Danielle, as it's a deadline-driven league, and the Vikings, the rookies report to TCO Performance Center Bar and Grill in less than 10 days. So things are getting close. It's almost football season, baby. That's right. But Darren, Doogie, Wolfson, KSTP Sports shed some light on what's going on with Danielle Hunter. He said this, quote, "I think things are going to ramp up next week. A lot of Vikings people are trickling back into town. I think next week is going to be a relatively active week. I don't know if talk will turn into action, but I do think there is going to be a good amount of heavy dialogue next week." And that's the whole thing, too, where a lot of the decision makers, a lot of front office people, a lot of staff, they're out. They're out of town. It's like this part of the summer is like the only break that you really get on the NFL calendar. And it's true. Like there's a reason why some of these mega extensions aren't getting done right now, even though Quinnen Williams just got himself paid. But it could be a reason why we haven't heard anything about Justin Jefferson. There's a reason why we haven't heard anything about Danielle Hunter. Doesn't mean that something's not going to get done, as there is about 10 days and change before the start of training camp. But starting to get down there, man. But I think it's a spot where both sides are going to realize that, hey, Danielle, he's under contract this year. Yes, he is severely underpaid. Can we make that marketable? Maybe not put him into the upper tier echelon of edge rusher pay, which is 25 million per year. But can we get him to 15? Can we get him to a decent rate just like last year? Can we get him to 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there? And can we have it incentive laden as well? Because the Vikings do have leverage. Because if they want to, they can just put their foot down and be like, hey, you either play here or you don't play anywhere else. We will ride this thing out, and if you sit out long enough, your contract will toll, and we'll do the same song and dance next year. And Danielle, a couple things here. I don't think Danielle wants to sit out a season of his prime, obviously. And last year, Danielle had a good year. He was healthy, played all 18 games, led the team in sacks with 10.5, was second on the team in pressures behind Zadarius with 76. All of this while learning a new position, stand-up outside linebacker on the fly. And the whole thing about Danielle is he is best utilized as a closed side of the field, left side, strong side, hand in the dirt defensive end, as evidenced by his back-to-back 14.5 sack seasons, 2018, 2019, when he was an apex predator, absolutely getting it on the edge. Missed all of 2020 with a herniated disc in his neck, and then missed most of the 10 games in 2021 due to that torn pec. But I think that he is certainly finding his way again. I think that he's still in the thick THICC of his prime, and I think the Vikings, it would make sense to extend him long term. And just looking at his contract, like, Do you extend him long term? Do you give him that 2, 3, 4 year extension at a market rate, or do you put a Band-Aid on another deal this year, just like you did last year, just like you did the year before that, and then go from there? And Danielle, I don't think that Danielle wants to miss a season working with Brian Flores, because I think Flores is smart enough to utilize him in the way that he's supposed to be used, like we've talked about, where. Yeah, so Trey Flowers was an elite edge rusher for the Patriots a couple years under Brian Flores when he was DC. Now, Trey Flowers is a hand-in-the-dirt defensive end, but he still got his in Flores' scheme. So it's not so rigid that it's like, hey, players have to line up here in my scheme, because great coaches adjust their scheme to their players, not the other way around. So I think that Danielle Hunter could be in line for an absolutely monster season this year, get himself paid this year or somewhere else. And the Vikings edge rusher room, if you take away Danielle, Davenport's a huge question mark. I think Wanham and Jones could pick up some slack. Andre Carter, the second, the UDFA, they'd have to lean on a little bit. But, it gets kind of dicey. There's a lot of question marks after 99. So I think that working something out and getting him back in here would make the most sense. So I'm glad that there does seem to be a little bit of momentum. And we'll see next week. It's something that could be taken care of like that, or it could drag out into training camp. And Doogie also said that he didn't think that the start of training camp was a deadline, and Danielle Hunter could potentially hold out, even though stuff with the new CBA, racking up and stacking up those fines that stay on the books. But We'll see what happens, man. Anyways, your thoughts on our thoughts. Report Danielle Hunter and Vikings contract talks to ramp up next week. Woo! Let us know your thoughts on our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.